And we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I've got Logan with me. Logan, how are you doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Um, NBA playoffs are going to start this weekend. I'm super hyped. My team has home court advantage. I been stoked about that. Been a long time coming. Got lots of good games to play in the meantime. So life's good. How about you, man?
It's been a good week. Honestly, normally there's been some negative news story or something, like something that really puts gamers on a downer. I think this past week we've had a lot of good news. Life in general, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty boring at the minute. It's raining all the time. I think people are just getting ready for the summer and all that stuff. But yeah, anyway, all that stuff aside, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of exciting stuff, a lot of positive stuff. But before we get into all that, Logan, what have you been playing this past week?
Well, I just finished Phobia St. Denfa Hotel last night, and it was really good. I won't get too much into spoilers, just that it ends up being one of those games that you probably want to play through more than once to see everything and have a choice you make and choose the other one. And it's very Resident Evil like, and it was good for what it is. Was it the best one I ever played? No, but I do recommend it. It was fun. Have gotten closer to wrapping up all the characters on Brotato, and I am about to start after the show. I'll be playing Harold Halibut, which looks incredible and just launched day one into Game Pass today. How about you, man? What have you been up to?
A lot of cool stuff, man. Dragon's Dogma 2, that game is just spectacular. uh, what we've talked about before, how when Elden Ring came out, that's all people were talking about, posting the clips of boss battles. It's kind of been like that with Dragon's Dogma 2 to an extent. People sharing what the porn characters look like. It's just, it's great, one of the downsides, and it's not really a downside, it's the fact that you can, when you fast travel to a town or something, there can be a dragon, and there could be a boss in the town waiting for you. Or you can go to bed and wake up and oh, there's a minotaur in the marketplace. The game actually keeps you on your toes, but I'd say it's fair. The game doesn't have difficulty modes like the first game. It has a dynamic difficulty mode, much like the Resident Evil ones from Resident Evil 2 and 4 and all that stuff. But it just works. It's a good game, if you remove the reaction at launch and the microtransactions, which you don't even need to get, phenomenal game. Absolutely phenomenal. Been playing a bit of Persona 3 Reload. Again, that game just doesn't end, but I kind of enjoy it for that reason. Cool characters. I like the vibe of it, but again, the only negative with Persona 3 is just it reminds me of how I had to use how I used to wear a school uniform. So, outside of that
Oh,
little,
I did too.
yeah. Oh, I didn't know you actually wore uniforms in the US, but it's so annoying, so uncomfortable. The ones we used to wear, nightmarish material. It's awful stuff. By the way, a little bit of a tangent. The the uniforms we used to wear was so uncomfortable that when we did PE, we had to wear those uniforms as we did PE.
Oh man, they made us change.
Yeah,
Like they would have us go to the bathroom or whatever and change into athletic shorts or a t-shirt so we didn't get nasty.
yeah. Well, for us, we had to change our shorts, but the white polo top, which is actually a lot like the one from Persona 3 Reload. We had to wear that in PE. Now, let me tell you this: a a polo top that feels like it's made out of sandpaper when you're running. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. A lot of people had a lot of injuries. But anyway, outside of that, I've been playing a game called Open Roads. It's a indie game on Game Pass. You can finish it in about an hour. You can get all 1,000 G achievements in about 1 hour. It's a fun game. It's a story based game. And outside of that, Lost Judgment. I highly recommend people play the first game, Judgment. It's an incredible game. Even if you're new to the Yakuza universe, you can just enjoy it. It's a separate story set in the same cities. It's a great game. What can I say? There's not much else I can say about it. But anyway, that's enough about all the games we've been talking about. We've got a crap load of news to talk about, so let's get into it. Anyway, First up, okay, this is a funny topic. X-Defiant. X-Defiant is the Ubisoft's Call of Duty competitor. I've played it. I played the open beta about a year and a half ago, and the reception of it was kind of you know. It wasn't that positive because, I think competition's great for everything. I think Call of Duty needs competition, Battlefield, Halo, everything needs competition. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people are creatures of habit and people won't move on. So, like, no matter how good X-Defiant could be, I don't think people will move on. However, the gameplay is terrible. You don't have your grenade and tactical like you do in Call of Duty. You have kind of abilities. It kind of feels like they've tried to put, what's the term, like Overwatch style characters into a Call of Duty style game, which I don't like. It's not fun. But anyway, the open beta is back for a new test server. It starts on April 19th to April 21st, so you can download it now. Get ready for it. I hope it's good. I hope they've improved on it. But like, Call of Duty gets a lot of crap, but it's satisfying to play. It's just fun. And you get a lot of content there. You get a campaign, you get a zombies mode, there's co-op stuff, there's Warzone, there's a lot of content there. And I can see Ubisoft heavily diving into microtransactions with this game because one of the... I'm trying not to rage here. One of the pictures, one of the characters in the poster is a character wearing a Splinter Cell outfit. Now...
Oh, that again?
Yeah.
They're doing... Oh, my God.
Like, I get it, right? Splinter Cell is a beloved IP, and we maybe actually be seeing the remake this summer. But, like, I'm sick and tired of opening up Twitter and seeing Sam Fisher outfits on every character known to man. Every game has a Sam Fisher outfit, and it's like, okay, that's cool, that's nifty, that's cute. Is Rayman going to get a Splinter Cell outfit next? Probably does already. And... no Splinter Cell game, But anyway, the beta's out soon for X-Defiant. Logan, do you think you'll be checking out the game at all?
No, not at all.
Thought as much. It's the thing is that, like I said, Call of Duty is just satisfying. But X-Defiant, it just feels like it exists because Call of Duty does. And I want Call of Duty to have competition, but no one seems to be making that game. This isn't back on 360 where you had all these different companies coming out with a new first-person shooter every 3 months and it had a multiplayer mode. It's not like that anymore. We have Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, and Overwatch. And all of them basically give you a different type of like first-person shooter experience. So you have X-Defiant, they trying so hard to be Call of Duty with a dash of Rainbow Six Siege, but it's just not working. And I hope it works out for them. But man, seeing that Splinter Cell outfit, that was the last straw. like, come on, 11 years since the last Splinter Cell game. 11. That's a long time without a Splinter Cell game. Hopefully the remake's good, but yeah, X-Defiant, not much I can say about it in the positive aspects. Anyway, we move on. Dead Space. I'm sure everyone listening loves Dead Space. I love Dead Space. Logan loves Dead Space. It's a great IP. Unfortunately, the third game, it had a messy development cycle. It didn't sell what EA wanted it to, and it was a shame. However, about, 7 years ago or something, there was a game in development called Dead Space 4, and that game was essentially going to be Mass Effect, but Dead Space. You travel from planet to planet, have squad mates and all that stuff, and it never saw the light of day. And I could honestly cry myself to sleep at night knowing that. Awful news. And the IP kind of went, quote-unquote, dead for a while. Long time, really. A decade, if you will. And we finally got the Dead Space remake. And in an age where you have new AAA titles launching, buggy, you have things put in games that people don't want, be it microtransactions or whatever, game features removed, or anything like that. And they came out with a remake that was spectacular and improved in the gameplay in every single way. It actually made the story more cohesive, easier to understand. There was actually more cutscenes in the game, which made the story even better. The world was more fleshed out. You could actually go back to previous sections of the space station, which you couldn't in the first game. Because if you forgot an item or collectible or something in the original, you couldn't go back. Unless like it was a very chapter specific thing, which was like planned to happen. But in this game, you can go back whenever you want, and it has this thing called, I can't remember what it was called. It's like the horror detector or something, the horror director, and every playthrough you have of that game would be completely different. So, for an instance, I would be walking down a corridor and I forgot something. So I went back to the hub, got something out of my storage, and continued down the pathway. And like 3 enemies burst out of a wall, and I thought, right, just gonna mess about. I reloaded the previous save and I went down that hallway again, and there was no enemy. And then I encountered like sort of a sub boss about half an hour later, and it was a very cool addition to the game. They added full 360-degree movement when it came to zero G, basically the zero G movement from Dead Space 2. And the game's phenomenal. It's perfect. It has a bunch of quality of life features which people love. Well, what's the problem? Well, it turns out the game didn't sell what EA wanted it to, and it looks like Dead Space 2 remake isn't happening. It looks like Dead Space as a franchise is currently on hold again. And apparently the team behind the Dead Space remake, Motive Studios, wanted to actually make a brand new Dead Space game that wasn't even a remake. So we lost. We lost out big time. Logan, I know you hurt as much as I am.
Yeah, I'm pretty really miffed and peeved about this one, to be honest. Like, I don't rage post a lot or scream into the void or anything. It really doesn't help. But yeah, this royally blows. It's just yet again like EA tricked you. Like, you're like, okay, EA finally's been redeemed. They've come to the light side. They're walking the golden path for a few years, and then they pull something like this again. And so it's just like, what happened? We had, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. We have these great single player games that are awesome and beloved. You make this, it's critically acclaimed, gets nominated for awards. Everybody loves it. They say, wow, you did the delicate balance of somehow taking a masterclass game and making it even better and more coherent and cohesive in a way that didn't, tread on things or make problems. It was literally perfect how they did it. And for you to go, okay, actually, we don't want to do Dead Space 2 remake or Dead Space 3 remake or Dead Space 4 or new Dead Space direction. We want you to work on this Iron Man game, and guess what? Instead of the COD mines, they have the battlefield fields now. Yeah, it's just they send them out there to like this labor camp to work on this now. It's ridiculous. Like, nobody wants that. Battlefield is very popular. The Battlefield just ain't it right now. And I get that sales are a thing and you have to appease, the shareholders and all that, but my goodness, EA, just you're starting to go through your old playbook, and I'm watching because you remember. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Visceral Studios? Because this is eerily similar to what happened to them. A former Dead Space studio made Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, and then all of a sudden they get shifted to Battlefield, and then make Battlefield Hardline, and then poof, Visceral Studios is no more and joins the graveyard with Pandemic and all the other studios they Grim Reapered. Not saying that's going to happen to Motive, but I would be paranoid if I was Motive. It's just awful. It makes me dislike EA even more than I already did.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't like EA's moves, what they're doing at the minute. And we've said over the past year or so, like I like the direction EA is heading in. That's a shock. I know, they have faith in single player games again. and just moves like putting a studio like Motive onto Battlefield, and Battlefield is not in a good place right now. It's gotten better since launch because they've kind of moved towards classes instead of operators, and that moving to operators for Battlefield was horrendous. Don't know what they were thinking. There was no campaign, which I love first person shooter campaigns, and not having one and that, it was awful. There were complete buildings in the multiplayer that didn't have collision, so you could fly around in a jet and bounce off buildings, and it wouldn't recognize that your plane should have any damage. you know, it was just terrible. And like seeing them put on this is disappointing. Dead Space remake is phenomenal, and I'm surprised because yes, these games cost a lot of money. Everyone knows that. However, like when you make a remake, you already know basically the blueprint of the game, so it's like I can't imagine it costing that much. But it's strange, man, because like horror games at the minute seem to be popping off. But you have Alan Wake 2, which sells 1 million. You have the Dead Space remake, which apparently didn't sell enough, and then you have the Resident Evil games, which can easily clear 10 million. I don't know. It's something weird, but like, if people are listening and haven't played Dead Space remake yet, just play it. It's a great game. It's also in Game Pass. And by the way, when all this news came out, the amount of people that replied to me saying, "Oh, it's because it launched in Game Pass," we're just completely lying. It didn't launch in Game Pass.
It didn't launch in Game Pass at all.
Yeah, it came to Game Pass 10 months after launch. I don't think that was really EA's problem. I mean, hell, when the game came out, my feed was filled with people posting pictures and videos and stuff. Like, people did buy it. It's just EA, Square, and we'll be talking about Square in a bit. They have these lofty expectations for games, and some of these games don't even get marketing. Like Dead Space remake in the UK had next to no marketing. In fact, I don't think I've seen a single advert on television for Dead Space. So it's unfortunate. Seeing Motive get put on Battlefield is just a weird move because they excel in single player content. They did do a multiplayer mode for Star Wars Squadrons, but you can't say that's like Battlefield. It's an unusual move, and we've seen publishers or heard publishers kind of talk about how like moving to live service is a good idea with all these games costing like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars now, and like I don't understand who's like giving them this advice. Is there like some crazy analyst in the back just making all this stuff up? Because I can tell you this. I don't play multiplayer games. Yeah, I play Call of Duty multiplayer with one of my mates, and I play Fall Guys. That's it. Right? I dipped out of multiplayer like a decade ago. I don't touch it. I don't touch the stuff. So like when a new game's announced and I get excited by this cool CGI trailer, and then the developer says live service, I tap out. I'm done. I'm already exited from buying the game. I'm never gonna play the game because I'm out. I got burnt out on Anthem, where I bought the digital deluxe edition, or should I say the deluxe edition on disc. And guess what? That game didn't work. And they forgot to turn the Christmas lights off. And I can honestly whine about that every week. It was so annoying. Like, Logan, didn't you get the deluxe edition of Anthem as well?
Yep, I have a Steelbook Legion of Dawn edition, baby. Fat lot that's doing me right now.
Yeah, and like that game went nowhere. Like I had plans for an Anthem podcast, and I had art made and everything for it. Nobody plays that game now. Nobody played that game a month after launch. It's like I don't play multiplayer games now. I don't play live service games now. And just seeing this move is disappointing. And I used to be big into Battlefield back in the day. Back with Battlefield 3. And even though Battlefield 4 was broken, so broken at launch, I tried to like give it a good amount of time, but it was broken. And Battlefield's in a bad state, and it's been in a bad state since 2013. And it's never been in a good place since. Battlefield hasn't been in a good place since 2011 with Battlefield 3. Like, it's been a long time. Such a long time. But yeah, Star Wars Squadrons was made by them as well. And it's got a full-on campaign. You get to play as like the Rebellion and the Empire. It's such a good campaign as well. Has some of the best space combat in any game ever. It's basically... It's basically a spiritual successor to Star Wars Squadrons. And I think more people need to play those games. It's one of EA's best studios, and I say that as a BioWare fan. So that's saying a lot. But yeah, we'll move on. We've got a bunch of good stuff to talk about. Now, if you're enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. I hate doing these little ads, but I really have to. It helps the channel. If you want to retweet it out, it really helps. If you want to support the channel with Super Chat, if you want anything answered and all that stuff, it's greatly appreciated and all that stuff. So, Game Pass. Today, Harold Halibut came out. Now, if people don't know, Harold Halibut is an adventure game set on a spaceship set in an alien ocean. So this spaceship that was traveling across space crashed into a planet, had a lot of humans on board, and basically everyone woke up and they're just living their lives underwater. That's the story, basically. But the interesting part about the game is that the game is 100% handmade. Stop motion, all that stuff, right? So, like, basically made how, like, Wallace and Gromit was made, you know? All these little plasticine and clay models made from hand, and they've been making this game for about 10 years. And it just launched in Game Pass. I haven't got to it yet, but I've been looking forward to this game for years now. And it's an adventure game. There's not going to be any shooting or anything like that, but I can't wait for it. Logan, I know it's already out now, and it is a 52 gigabyte download. But I know you're looking forward to it.
I was shocked by the download size, but then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, well, it took a lot of computer scans and cinematography and hand animations and, crafting all this stuff to scan over a decade of files and images and everything. Like, okay, it makes sense, when you put it that way, but yeah, it looks incredible. I'm looking forward to playing it. I love these kind of quirky art house indie type stuff, so I think it's going to be right up my alley. And if nothing else, I'm gonna play it a while to appreciate the art and see what it's like, and see how I like the narrative and everything. But look forward to checking it out. And we have some breaking news on the gaming industry if you want to chime in. Apparently, Take Two that just announced that they're laying off 5% of its workforce and canceling games.
Jeez. Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll get through the Game Pass bit and then we'll talk about 2K because, like,
Oh, sorry. I saw it on the timeline when I was talking to you, so I just was like,
yeah, it's
shoot.
fine. It's fine. We've already got a little bit of Game Pass stuff to go through. But yeah, Harold Halibut out now. Looks great. If you like sci-fi and all that stuff, it's going to be enjoyable. We got a bunch of new Game Pass announcements today, which I'll go over very quickly. There's a game called Another Crab's Treasure. I've covered this on the channel. It's basically a Souls game, a very colourful Souls game. And I know a lot of people get put off when they hear Souls game. However, they've literally said it. It's a light-hearted game. You literally play as a crab. It kind of looks like the crab from The Little Mermaid, like the 1990 film.
Sebastian?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks a lot like Sebastian. It looks really good, and your armor is a can, and your weapon's a fork. It looks really
That
cool.
sounds fun to me.
Yeah, and that comes out, I think, this week. There's a game coming out called Have a Nice Death. I think that's a platformer. Orcs Must Die 3. That game actually launched in Stadia. That was an exclusive on Stadia for a time being, and now it's been added to Game Pass. NHL 24. So if you like your hockey and you may be Canadian, I assume you probably like that. Manor Lords is launching in PC Game Pass and Game Preview. It's kind of a city builder / RTS. It's got different modes and all that stuff. But the big one, the really big one, is a game called Eulden Chronicle 100 Heroes. This game has one of the most successful Kickstarters of all time for any game. They hit, I think, every single stretch goal. For tons of different characters. There's like 100 different characters in the game. Actually, before we continue, we have a first super chat of the day by Nick W. Thank you very much. He says, "I'm looking forward to Eulden Chronicle 100 Heroes." So am I. That game looks phenomenal, and I found out recently when I was covering the video in a top list, which is the link is in the description down below. That game is voiced. I had no idea they were going to voice characters in that game. I think it has Japanese and English audio. It might have a few other languages, but like it looks phenomenal because we don't really get JRPGs like that now. It kind of blends SNES style JRPGs with original PlayStation JRPGs. And it looks great. You've got beautiful 3D environments with these 2D characters, kind of like how Octopath Traveler works. But this is like a huge game. Like this is going to be like, I think this is going to be one of the biggest JRPGs of the year. Logan, have you been looking forward to this at all?
Oh, absolutely. Day one. I am super stoked for this one. I 100%ed and bought the Iuden Rising prequel to it. And not a major spoiler, but one of the characters from it, the kangaroo guy, is a noteworthy character in this game as well. So I'm absolutely into it, gonna buy it as well. I want to support games like this coming to the platform. Just a gorgeous, like you said, inspired by Suikoden, and which is also coming to Xbox down the way. Remasters, remakes of those, and Octopath Traveler, and just it looks gorgeous. The story is going to be fantastic. The soundtrack is sublime. Just I love these. Just the golden era of SNES, but modernized is just it's wonderful. Just give me more of it.
Yeah, and it's also made by some of the creators of the Suikoden titles. So, and the thing is, I've never gotten to play the Suikoden games back in the day. So, like, I'm getting those games when the remasters come out. Konami really need to put out a trailer for them at some point again. But yeah, Eulden Chronicle looks great. One of the characters is a shark with legs and a sword. I'm instantly sold. That character looks cool. It has a bunch of different like gameplay mechanics. There's like a city mechanic. There's like tons of mini games and stuff. The combat looks really good. And I think a lot of people will look at a 3D game with 2D characters and kind of think, oh, it's like a crap indie game. Even though I don't really think there are crap indie games. I think people will look at it and think like it's nothing, but I think it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year. Like I really do. I'm going to buy it. I think a lot of people are going to have fun with it, and I think it's going to have a bunch of quality of life features, which I think a lot of JRPGs recently have been having. I'll always talk about Crisis Core because I think they did an excellent job with that, with the quality of life improvements. But yeah, they've done a great job with that game, and it comes out really soon. I think it comes out on the 23rd of April, but I think a lot of people are going to have fun with that game. Anyway, thank you for the 4.99, Nick W. It looks fantastic. Can't wait for it. And the last piece of Game Pass news, and you messaged me about this, Logan. Spyro Reignited Trilogy. That got listed on the Windows Store. It's never been on the Windows Store, and it has Xbox achievements on Windows and all that stuff, controller support, and it's like, why would you randomly put Spyro Reignited on the Windows Store of all games? And it's kind of got people thinking, is it coming to Game Pass? And more Activision games are coming to Game Pass this year. It kind of looks like it's coming. I played Spyro Reignited, have it on disc. It's great. It's probably one of the best remakes there is. Like, it's beautiful. You've got quality of life improvements. By the way, that's a big thing for me with games. If you're going to remaster a game, if you're going to remake it, quality of life features are needed. That's why I talk about Lost Odyssey all the time. They just need to put out a 4K 60 remaster of that and give it difficulty modes. Boom. They're done. Anyway, Spyro. It looks like it's coming to Game Pass, and we're probably going to hear about it either in the next few weeks or at their summer showcase. Logan, I know you're a big Spyro fan, so I bet you're looking forward to this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I can't wait till Spyro and Crash and all their games come to Game Pass. Like, as 90s kids, we grew up in the golden era of platformers,
Yep.
and there's been kind of a resurgence lately. And it just these remakes and remasters are more ways to introduce modern audiences to these beloved characters who are now Xbox mascots. If you had told me in 98 or early 2000s that Spyro and Crash would not only be on Xbox platform but would be mascots of the brand, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
So it it's awesome that they're in Game Pass, and that some of the games are coming to PC as well, which gets even more people to play and get to experience these beloved characters and franchises. And achievements is just awesome. Might make some people double dip. And I just can't wait. And the fact that it's already getting bumped on there makes me think that it's going to be much sooner than later when it's announced. If I had to guess, I'd say probably the latest it would get announced is the June showcase. Like I think it's going to be pretty soon for Spyro.
Yeah, I don't. I realistically, I think it is going to be the summer showcase. But if they like do like some drops before then, I think the reception is going to be really good. And which we're going to be talking about later, like Xbox at the minute. Like we've had a few weeks of like good news and stuff. So anyway, we'll be talking about that in a bit. But yeah, Spyro Reignited looks like it's coming to Game Pass, and if people have never played the originals, they are super fun platformers. Lots of collectibles, lots of crystals, lots of like dragons to fight. It's a good game, really good game. And we're probably going to see the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. And by the way, those Crash Bandicoot games are super difficult. like you play,
Oh my gosh, I hate that tower so much.
yeah, like you play these games as a kid, and you think, oh, it's difficult, but at the time, you don't really think about it like that. And then you play them as adults, even though it's like a remake. They made the movements 1-to-1 and the levels 1-to-1. It's like, oh, so this is why people say it was like Dark Souls back in the day. It's like Spyro, I wouldn't say it's hard. I'd say it's a very casual game. But Crash Bandicoot, I forgot what they called the remake, but like that collection of games is brutal, absolutely brutal difficulty. Fun though, and we're probably going to see a Crash Bandicoot 4, and this would kind of line up with the Spyro the Dragon 4 stuff we've heard that Toys for Bob is starting to make a game. So hey, if you're a fan of Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, it looks like it's going to be some good stuff on Xbox. Anyway, we'll move on. Well, we'll move on to that topic you just mentioned, Logan. 2K laying off, or I should say Take-Two laying off 5% of the workforce and cancelling games. I mean, speechless, man. Like, you have this GTA Online that prints money. Literally, they may as well have a printer set up and a copy machine just to make their own money, right? GTA Online, so many people buy shark cards to the point where it's so annoying. You know how GTA is always in the top charts, like in the UK and it is in the US and I assume in other countries? It's because sometimes it's cheaper to buy not Call of Duty. It's cheaper to buy GTA that comes with the shark card than buying the most expensive shark card. Like, there's people out there that I know for a fact that have like 30 copies of GTA just so they can get the shark card money, and it's crazy. But like, people that play GTA Online are crazy. And by the way, I used to talk about this. Like I've told you, Logan, I've talked about this on the channel. I used to be addicted to GTA Online. Like, actually addicted. Like, the systems they have in that game makes people want to play more. Thankfully, I didn't spend a penny on microtransactions in that game, but like that game prints money. I think it's made like $10 billion or something like that. Like, absolutely insane.
They're not hurt.
Yeah, they're not hurting. And then doesn't the NBA 2K that has like pachinko, doesn't it? Like, it has some gambling game.
Oh, it is insane, all the stuff. Like, you got sneakers, you got jerseys, you got throwbacks, you've got, all this customization, and then, power ups and leveling up your character and certain traits and skills. It's a cash cow, big time.
Like, so, like, I don't see why they would be like hurting. And 2K is one of these publishers where they don't actually put out a lot of games every year. They put out their sports title, they put out the wrestling title, and their wrestling games always sell well. Outside, I don't think 2018 sold well because it was buggy, but outside of that, like, their games sell well, and to them, shut down projects like we heard about the Bully 2 being cancelled and all this stuff. Like, this is how crazy Take-Two is, right? Remedy sold the Max Payne IP to Rockstar back in the day, and then all these years later, they hired them to make the remakes of Max Payne, right? Pretty cool, right? Cool story. And then about 3 months ago, we hear that Rockstar is wanting to sue Remedy because of their logo. Like, crazy. It makes no sense. Like they are a bit of a tangent. Now that this topics came up, I can whine about this. Take Two, and 2K. It's basically the same company. They are the least fan-centric company on earth when it comes to gaming. They copyright claim every single video I put out that uses cutscenes from any of their games. So that's why when you're watching a podcast or a video, you'll notice that there's never GTA footage from 4 or 5. There may be some Red Dead stuff, but never from cutscenes. I wanted to cover Max Payne 3 on the channel, and I used 3 seconds. 3 seconds from the trailer from 2010, and they copyright claimed a 20-minute video. So, like, they don't care, right? And do you know there's all these accounts that, GTA specific, YouTube channels, they have to go all out and try and like make the video look different. They flip the video backwards, they zoom in, they change the contrast and saturation, even the focus levels of the video, so they don't get copyright claimed, because Take Two doesn't like people using even any of their footage, even your own gameplay. So like that's why on this channel you don't see me cover Take Two games. I just don't. And now that Gearbox is under Take Two, maybe I can't talk about Borderlands in the future. But yeah, like I know I'm whining a bit here, but do you know Ubisoft lets people use their footage? Like I'm a press affiliate for Ubisoft, EA, Xbox, Bethesda, who else? Sega, and they all let me use their footage from trailers, and it's fine. And they give it to you, right? They give you logos, trailers, different videos, icons, all this stuff, right? Take Two, they don't like that stuff. So, like, if you're IGN or GameSpot, you can cover their titles. But if you use a second of gameplay or a second from a trailer, you're done. So, like, when I've covered Max Payne in the past, I use screenshots. That's not fun. I don't like using screenshots in a video. It's just no. But anyway, Take Two, they're a big sack of crap as a company, and they're going to make all the money in the world with GTA 6 when that comes out next year, and it's sad to see, and I would love them to put out more games. Remember back in the day when we used to get multiple games a generation from Rockstar? We got Max Payne 3, we had a table tennis game, we had GTA 4, GTA 5, 2 expansions for GTA 4, we had Midnight Club, I think it was LA, and Red Dead Redemption, LA Noire, and now we get one game a generation. And that's that. And cancelling stuff, they've probably cancelled some remasters. The GTA 4 remaster's probably been cancelled. Like, Logan, what's your take on this? Because we talk about the layoffs all the time, and Take Two are clearly not hurting for cash at the minute, but it's kind of outrageous, really.
Yeah, this is no hyperbole, but when you have one of the most anticipated games of all time and GTA 6 coming out in the next year, and you're going to make just unholy amounts of money on that. And I'd bet in like a week or month's time, just obscene, like GDP of some country's level of money. And on top of that, you have all the shark cards, you have all the transactions in the 2K games that you spin out every year, even though you could just do DLC or expansions for them. Like, the whole sports game industry is wild. But, like, basically, you have all these models set up for this stuff that's continual money printing machines. And then you acquire Borderlands and Gearbox for pennies on the dollar, and now you're cutting 5% of your workforce and canceling projects. That it's not a good look. I mean, of course, it's never a good look to lay off and do stuff, but it just seems especially egregious for someone in their position to do this. And it's just a bummer because who knows what those canceled projects are. I'm sure Schreier or someone else will, come up with some expose on them eventually. But, it's stuff like this is why we don't get an agent or a, Bully 2 or some of these other games that we always wanted that just get mysteriously often silence. It's a real bummer, and just it's disappointing.
Yeah. And by the way, we were originally going to get, I think, 8 single player expansions for GTA 5. Like,
Yeah, that didn't happen.
yeah, there was going to be one for each of the main characters, and then there was going to be like a bunch of wild stuff, probably like a zombie DLC or something like that. But like, it's so sad to see because Rockstar's beloved, and I'm not saying no, I'm not going to get GTA 6 because let's face it, I'm a sucker for GTA. I'm going to buy it the day it comes out. By the way, I think that game's actually going to sell about 25 million copies in the first week. Not even kidding.
I
Like,
wouldn't doubt it.
like biggest game of all time, most anticipated game of all time, and I don't think any major title will release within a month of that coming out.
Not a smart company,
Yeah,
anyway.
no. I knowing EA, they'll put out like a Titanfall 3 the same day or something. But like it's sad to see because Take-Two, they have so many cool IPs, and like people have been wanting an LA Noire 2. It's not going to happen. I wanted Red Dead Redemption 2 to get zombie DLC. Never happened. The Red Dead Redemption 2 multiplayer community are in shambles because they didn't get any updates like past a few years. There's no extra content, and it's like Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the best-selling games of all time. And to Take-Two, that wasn't enough to give them multiplayer support or an expansion for the single player. Do you know how crazy that is? Do you know if Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo put out Red Dead Redemption 2 and they had those sales numbers, we would have multiple expansions by now. There would be multiple different multiplayer DLCs. There would be a bunch of new content basically every week because 50 million copies for a cowboy game is ridiculous. And it's a masterpiece. And they didn't do anything with it. And that blows my mind. You know, people want a next-gen upgrade for it. It's not going to happen. Apparently, they stopped in FPS boost by the BC team. I've been trying to get clarification on that, but that wouldn't surprise me. And yeah, it's a shame to see. And hopefully, they treat Gearbox well because Borderlands has so much potential as an IP. I don't know, man. It's a shame. It's a real shame. But, you know, it's Take-Two. They are, I say it again, I may trash Square Enix every single week. And I probably will do this episode. But Take-Two are the scummiest publisher on earth. Like, they print money and all these companies have been laying off people every week. We all know this right by now, but like they are the least fan-centric company. I put it like this. If you go to Rockstar Games Twitter and check their likes, it's always a bunch of people saying, "Oh, I love your game" and all this stuff. And about when Red Dead Redemption 2's online support was cancelled, there was this fan that put out a piece of fan art of, you know, the main character from Red Dead Redemption 2, and this person said, "Oh, it's an amazing game. It's a masterpiece." And Rockstar Games liked this tweet, but at the bottom of the image it said, "We want more multiplayer support." And clearly the person that liked the tweet at Rockstar didn't know about this, and there was a lot of replies to it pointing this out, and they unliked it straight away. So it's like they are not fan-centric in any way. Like, people give Nintendo a lot of crap for the stuff they've done in the past. At least they coming around to letting people use their content for, like, you know, videos and stuff and posting about games. Like, they never used to let people stream games on YouTube, which is crazy. And now they've changed, but Take-Two is actually worse, which, it's nuts, man. Anyway, we'll move on because we have like 30 topics left still. So, Star Wars Outlaws. Now, we got the new story trailer this past week. Personally, I think the game looks super fun. I find the underworld of Star Wars very interesting because we don't really see it often in video games, or really that much in the AAA form. And I think the trailer looks cool. It's a Ubisoft massive title. I'll say more. Yeah, massive. I keep getting massive and motive mixed up. So it's a Ubisoft massive title. They made Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. That is an excellent game. So, like, when I heard this, I was like, oh, I'm all in. It's a great studio. They know what they're doing. They know how to respect an IP. And straight away, I was like, yeah, I want this game. However, some controversy came up. And we briefly talked about this last week, but we'll mention it again because I think we only talked about it for like 30 seconds. Pricing models. This generation, we've been nickeled and dimed a lot. You know, game prices have went up to $70 and £70, and we still get microtransactions. We still get these heavy pre-order incentives and all this stuff, and people are kind of sick of it to the point now where I think the $70 price tag has hurt games. Like, people are more willing than ever to wait for titles, and if people want to wait for games to be cheaper, I can't blame them. I can't. You know, will it make sequels less possible or less likely? Yeah, but £70 is way too much for a game. $70 is way too much, and this is a Star Wars game. It's going to be $70, and it has a season pass, which I think Ubisoft's style of season passes aren't that bad. You know, you pay a smaller amount of money, you tend to get big expansions, and I own a lot of Ubisoft titles, so I can talk about this. And normally the value is there. However, the controversies came up is that there's a specific mission, the Jabba the Hutt mission, is tied to the season pass. And so basically you have to get the $110 version or something. But basically you have to pay a lot for this one mission, and this has been my biggest gripe for years. And by the way, we talked about this last week, and only big media sites have just started to cover it. So it's like, thank you. But yeah, like, Ubisoft does this thing where they tie a quest or quest line behind pre-orders or season passes. I missed out on the one for Assassin's Creed Mirage because I pre-ordered it 2 days in advance rather than a week or longer. And I think it's a really scummy business practice. Like, Logan, I know you had to do the same for Prince of Persia, right?
Yeah, I had to pre-order it and get on fast so that I could get the Warrior Within armor set and some extra items and gear and artwork and stuff. Otherwise, I would have missed out. And it wasn't available even to buy in a premium edition later. Like, you had to pre-order or it's gone.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like, I'm looking at it right now, right? I'll talk in pounds, because that's what I've got here. Like, 69.99, I think is too much for games, and people tell me, like, hey, I don't want to spend that much on games because I put it like this: you can get a year of Disney Plus for, I think, 74.99 or something like that, and like, that's a year of video content. But like, 69.99 for a game is just too much. And then you have 104.99, so you have the base game and the expansion, and then Star Wars Outlaws Ultimate Edition is 19.99. Sorry, 119.99, and it's basically the same stuff, but you get the Sabak card pack and an art book. Like, let's be honest, I love art books that come with physical games, but nobody cares about digital art books. Nobody cares, and I think, like, that is a pre-order incentive for an uber expensive version is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, Logan, out of all the games you've bought digitally, have you ever really looked through a digital art book at least more than once?
Very few have I delved into. Like, trying to remember what it was. I got one for a game recently, and it was really well. Oh, Starfield. Like, cuz I bought the Constellation edition.
Yeah.
So I got the steelbook, the credit stick, the also the digital game version, the watch, and then it came with the soundtrack and the art book, but the art book and soundtrack were digital. So I really went through that, but it's a Bethesda game, but it's like there's like an unseemly amount of artwork and details that go into this thing. And so you really have to delve in and dig into it and stuff. But for most games, I'd say no. And I don't know. It's like I am not cheap. I am not a cheap person at all. But it's and I get people use their money however they want, and I'm not gonna tell people how to use their money. Like, your house to your rules. I get it, but it seems insane to me to uptick the price so much when all they're doing is including some of this and then having some missions that are day one DLC that clearly could have been in the game just on disc or download, but for reasons are not. And, basically just make it so outrageously expensive. They're trying to steer you into their subscription service essentially. They're like, oh, see, you could subscribe for $18 a month and do this, 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 and get all the expansions and get all our other games too and stuff. But it's like, dude, like, modern Ubisoft to me is not what old Ubisoft was. Like, I love the new Prince of Persia, and I want to play the Star Wars game, but for the most part, I've not been thrilled with them lately. So, I don't want to have to subscribe to another subscription service just to get the Star Wars game and content. And so, the choice of, you know, just biting the bullet and paying it up front or waiting or doing a subscription service for a few months just so I can try to, jerry rig something to where I save a few bucks in the end is, I don't know, it's just not a good quandary to be in. And it's bad that they put people in this spot because, being honest, there's a ton of Star Wars fans who are looking forward to this game who are not well versed in Ubisoft or UB fans who only want, to play a Star Wars game. And this feels manipulative of them in particular. And I think it's a bad practice. And I'm still weighing whether I'll get it day one or not. But it I am definitely thinking strongly about waiting. And I love Star Wars, so that's hard. But when you have their games historically go on sale by 30 or $40 off within just a few months, like Avatar now, the Ultimate Edition, when it's on sale, you can get it for basically the price of the original normal game
Yeah.
day one. Like it's marked down that much. That to me is a heck of a lot better deal than $120. So if you can just be patient a little bit and get it for that, that gets really tempting. But I understand if people want to just dive in day one and go. Have at it, have fun. I'm thinking about it, but I'm also pretty miffed and think this is disingenuous behavior on their part.
Yeah, and do you know what the really sad part is? I'm on the Ubisoft pre-order website at the minute, and that Jabba the Hutt mission isn't even mentioned. It's just a thing you get. So, and
Mm.
one of the things is the 3D early access. I've seen a lot of people have a problem with this. Honestly, I think for a single player game, it doesn't matter. You know, and like for content creators, like maybe that's more of an incentive, or if you get four more, or if you just really want to play it 3 days early, because you like a lot of people have been looking forward to this. And like you said, there's a lot of Star Wars fans. This is probably going to be their first Ubisoft title. So that 3D early access thing is probably like very interesting to people. But man, like I love a lot of Ubisoft games. Like they get a lot of hate daily because of their practices, but like really they do put out good games. And you did say their games go on sale a lot, which they do. Like Avatar is amazing. I got Avatar for Christmas, and I already know I'm going to get the season pass because the second expansion is going to be in a completely new region. The first expansion I think drops in the next few months. But like you can get the season pass I think for £25. So like to me I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get another 50, 60 hours out of this. That's worth it. But if you like you said, you can buy the deluxe edition of Avatar for the price of the main game at launch. So I understand why people want to wait. I'll probably get it at launch still. But like I advise people, like if you really really want that Jabba the Hutt DLC, I'm not going to tell people how to spend the money. But if it doesn't bother you, maybe wait till you see what those expansions are like before you get the season pass. Ubisoft fortunately does have a good track record with their expansions, so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So outside of that, the game looks great. I know, Logan, you wanted to talk about the character of the game.
Yeah, and I'll preface this. This is not a discussion about attractiveness or anything like that. So don't worry about that. That's not the direction this is going. This is simply about accuracy and like what is happening here. Like Destin Legary, who works for IGN, he did a wonderful video you should check out recent that came out the other day where he did a deep dive into the controversies around this game, and he used some AI, facial scanner recognizer software and stuff to compare character models to their actor or actress and for accuracy and yada yada. So he did this characters from this game, characters from other Star Wars game, and some other examples just to compare. And like Amelia Clark played Kira in Solo, and she's in this, and she has a cameo appearance. You use the character model of her versus her character in the game, and it's like an 81.23% match. Like, pretty good job. They used Janina Gavankar, who played, I think it was Eden Urso. I can't remember her name in Battlefront 2, the main protagonist, and it was 100% match. You use this one actor, I can't remember his name or his character, but in this game, and it was like a 50% something match. And then obviously the guy who played Cal Kestis is a complete match, like stunning spitting image, like this is the same guy. But he also did the software image on this main actress for this character Kay or Kate, and it was only like a 21% match. Like, I don't get it. Like, is there a reason they wanted to change things for like story purposes or gameplay? Because you remember the controversy about Spider-Man Remaster
Yeah.
when it came out, how you had this one guy who, Peter looked way different from Spider-Man PS4 to PS5, like completely different person looking, not just slightly different. And it's like that for this. It's like, how on earth is this the same person? Like, I'd get it if this was like this isn't like a Darth Vader scenario where you have James Earl Jones doing voice and you have the other guy doing the facial or the body animations or something like that. This is like same person, same voice, same everything. It's like, how on earth are they so way off? Like, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. And that's not even about like, oh, this character looks like they're trying to go for this or this. It's like, no, get out of here with that. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm talking about accuracy. It just seems weird.
Yeah, it is a weird developer thing. So, like you said, the guy that plays Cal Kestis, Cameron Monaghan, yeah, I think that's his name. Like he's perfect as that role. By the way, I think he's like, an amazing job playing that character. And by the way, not long ago,
Amen.
I saw this huge thread on Twitter about like who should play Cal Kestis in the live action like movies, and I'm just thinking the dude's
Like, you
right there.
kidding?
Yeah, like the dude's an actor. He was the Joker in Gotham. He was great as the character. Like the dude can act. Um, but like his character model is like 1-to-1, like spitting image, even the hair, right? Um, and like there's a lot of games that do it right. Like I think Courtney Hope in Quantum Break, she looks exactly like Courtney Hope. Um, However, her character model in Control looks slightly different, and I've never been able to figure out why. And maybe it's like an engine thing, but then it can't be for that. But there's some games where these games, these studios, they hire these actresses or like models or something, and they scan the face in for the game. That actor, actress gets paid, for their likeness, and for some reason they just don't make that character look like them. Like a good example of this is Aloy from Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Forbidden Dawn. In the first game, she looks a lot like the Dutch actress. I think she's Dutch. Beautiful actress. She's been in a bunch of like indie films people have seen before, but like her character model doesn't look like the actress, but she was paid for her likeness. Doesn't make much sense. But it seems to only apply to a lot of female characters. I've noticed, which is weird. Um, I don't know why developers do this. And again, this isn't like Logan said. This isn't about the whole like, oh, is the game character attractive? Like the whole Stellar Blade thing, which people were angry about. But like, if you're gonna pay an actor or an actress for the likeness, and in this case it is an actor, like, wouldn't you want to use their likeness? And I just checked out the image. That is Emilia Clarke in Star Wars Outlaws. Like, I never noticed in the trailer,
Yeah.
but like, I'm looking at an image right now, and that's her. That's Emilia Clarke, and it looks like Emilia Clarke. So I don't know. It can't be an engine thing. like, but the thing is, I've noticed some games do this. So if you look at the cover art, and my thumbnail actually uses the cover art, the character model in the thumbnail is different to the one you see in the game. But the character model you see at the trailer reveal last year at the Xbox Game Showcase, that was also a different character model. So I don't know what's going on. I think maybe they've gone through different versions of that character model. Like, if you look at the trailer, the original trailer, that character is blonde, but now she has darker hair, which is completely fine, but it's a different character. And I kind of get where people are going with this, because, again, Cal Kestis looks exactly like the actor. So who knows? Like, I'm not a developer, but it's a strange move we've seen with a bunch of games. And like, the thing is, it's these studios wasting money. They pay these actors a lot of money for their likeness, and then they just do nothing with it. So it's like, that's the studio's problem. It's the publisher's problem. Like, they're gonna make like no extra money off it, because I've seen in the past some people will buy a game because a certain actor or actress is in it. Like, can you imagine, Logan, if, let's say, Taylor Swift was in this game?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you would sell consoles, you would sell subscriptions, controllers, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, like, hypothetically, and if anyone at EA or Ubisoft listening, if you get the likeness of Taylor Swift and you make that character look like Taylor Swift, you're going to have every Swiftie on Earth buying consoles, PCs, video games, because some people they are like that. They will buy the game for the likeness of that character. And it's a weird move. But yeah, anyway, I just seen Lindsay Lohan in GTA 5.
I mean, yeah, that character was heavily inspired, at least to me.
Yeah, that we could talk about that all day, but yeah, it was a weird move. Maybe you. And the thing is, there's still a lot of time. They might change up the model again. The same thing happened with Mass Effect Andromeda. There was a male and a female a male and female models hired for those roles, like the face scans of the default characters. The male model looks exactly like the character you play as. Exactly. However, if you decide to play as the default female rider, it looks nothing like her. Although, a little bit of inside baseball, if that's the term I'm doing correctly. If you watch the original trailer,
That is correct.
okay, good. If you watch the original trailer for Mass Effect Andromeda, where you see the female rider exit the cryostasis pod, that's the character model we were originally going to play as in the game. But things changed for specific reasons. Anyway, Logan, have you got anything else to say on Star Wars before we move on?
No, just that I hope the game is awesome and blows everybody's socks off. I love Star Wars. I'm diehard. I want it to be great. I want it to be a wonderful world with wonderful stories and characters and expansions and everything. I just think it's kind of a punk move to what they're pulling. That was it. The game itself, though, super excited for.
Yeah, like look, people will find any reason to hate on Ubisoft. The move they're making with the pre-order or season pass mission, it's terrible. I've been wanting Ubisoft to stop. They've been doing this move, I think, since Assassin's Creed 3. They've been doing it for a long time,
Yeah.
and nobody's like batted an eye. It's an issue now because the price is more for these games. But hey, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. I have so much confidence in that developer. Like, the fact that they made an Avatar game and a Star Wars game at the same time. And Avatar, by the way, I've not experienced a single bug in that game. Not a single one. It's possibly maybe the best looking game I've ever played in my entire life. Like, there's so much tech going on there with the forest, and like it's breathtaking. Like, if people still want that next gen moment, that's one of those games. It's incredible. Anyway, we'll move on. Oh, we'll quickly talk about this because this will be fun. Tomb Raider. Whew. Yeah. So,
Oh man.
so like, I'll get this out of the way. I've been a Tomb Raider fan my entire life, right? Playing, like playing. I think it was like Tomb Raider or Tomb Raider 2 as a little kid on the PlayStation. Like, that was an incredible experience to me. It was a different type of game which we hadn't had before, and like, I loved the game. I loved the character. I loved the whole world they created, like the whole conspiracy aspect in the later games as well. Like, it's a really cool game, and I've been a fan of Tomb Raider my entire life. And I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that got a lot of hate because, I'm not gonna lie, there's literally 50% less enemies in that game than there was in Rise of the Tomb Raider. You can play for hours and not encounter any enemy. And that was mainly my only issue with the game. But you know what Shadow of the Tomb Raider does have? Some of the best tombs in the entire franchise. Like, the tombs in that game are literally amazing. And there was an expansion pack that was basically just a bunch of tombs. And those tombs are even better than the ones in the base game. Like, they actually make you think. And when you complete them, you actually feel smart and that you've accomplished something. So bear in mind, the franchise is called Tomb Raider. And Amazon Game Studios is they co-publishing the brand new Tomb Raider game. It's going to be coming to Xbox, PlayStation, PC, who knows, maybe Switch 2. And I've been looking forward to this game, as a lot of other Tomb Raider fans have been looking forward to. Well, it turns out they're moving away from Tomb Raiding because this is dumb, by the way. It promotes Raider culture, which doesn't exist, by the way. That's not a thing. There aren't people like trying to sneak into a museum and like steal paintings like the way they do in like the films. There's no one trying to, like, you don't have Nicolas Cage trying to get the what was that thing he tried to steal in that film?
The Declaration
Yeah.
of Independence.
Yeah.
There's a map on the back.
Yeah, like Nicolas Cage saying that, by the way, in a film, like, "Oh, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence." That's the dumbest line in history, but it works.
It's so great, though.
Yeah. But like the Tomb Raider thing isn't a thing in real life anymore. Like, people just don't do that. And they want to move away from Raider culture, and it's just dumb, man. Like, your franchise is called Tomb Raider. You're going to call the new game Tomb Raider. And now Lara Croft is a seeker of hope and truth. And it was on about colonialism. I'm British. I'm not going to talk about colonialism, right? We get it. We have a bunch of stuff in our museums, but we like our museums. I don't know what can be done, right? But that was a long time ago. And nobody really cares. Like, it's a video game. And these tombs you raid, they don't exist in real life. Like, so that's why this doesn't even make any sense. So when you go to Cairo, I think it's Cairo in Rise of the Tomb Raider in the second mission, that tomb you swing into in the rope, that doesn't exist in real life. Right? The massive tomb under the frozen lake in the end of Rise of the Tomb Raider, that doesn't exist either. So like, this whole move from raiding tombs to seeking truth is the dumbest move of all time. And it's this case of like look, on this channel, and I promise this, on this channel I will never talk about politics. That's not what I do. That's not my thing. I'm not even interested in the topic. But it's this move of where people are just overly sensitive to the point now where, like, they made up raider culture that doesn't exist. You don't open the news every day and say, "Oh, Dave from Australia just swung into a cave in Egypt and stolen an artifact." That doesn't happen, right? And it's a weird move because people play Tomb Raider games to raid tombs, and the challenge aspect of doing the puzzles, fighting enemies, and like, you go into this cave that no one's ever been into for 2,000 years. However, there's ammo crates all over the place. Like, but people like those games. and like the films were fun too. They kind of over the top, and I really enjoyed the last film. Um, but it's a weird move. Like Logan, what's your take on it? Because I know you like Tomb Raider as well, and it's like of all things you want to change, but you want to keep the name Tomb Raider.
Yeah, this is. We could have a whole episode on this one and this whole topic in general, but the whole idea of basically like feeling embarrassed or bad about the culture of a game and franchise, yet you're perfectly happy to remaster it and put it out there and then continue the franchise forward and keep the name and everything. Like, if you want to have a quote unquote pioneer of virtue or a truth seeker or a, you know, whatever happy term you want to use for somebody character, then maybe make a different franchise. Like, she is female Indiana Jones. She was Nathan Drake before Nathan Drake was a pipe dream. She is, like, I know we laughed at the list the other day, but the old time character list or whatever came from BAFTA or whatever, but she is widely recognized as one of the most universally loved and acclaimed characters ever made. And for you to take that franchise and go, you know, maybe this isn't such a good idea, or we should do this or that. It's like, get out of here, man. At what point it doesn't become Tomb Raider anymore? Like, what are you gonna have her do? You gonna have her, break into a museum and take all the artifacts and return them back to where they came from? It's like, it's like instead of the Tomb Raider, it's like, I don't know. And I get it that there are some things in some of the games, especially from the era we grew up in or before, that were pretty wild or would be considered offensive and and bad and poor taste to most people today. But then there's other stuff that is just like accepted as like this was a different era, different time, different mindset, different way of doing things, or is clearly just art. And to just try to get so sensitive and so in the weeds about stuff to where you're overcompensating for something, for some alleged sins of your fathers type stuff. Just, it seems ridiculous to me. Leave Croft alone. I'm not even talking about the goofy arguments about, oh, the attire is different or whatever. It's like people wear cargo pants. People wear long sleeve clothes. People, if I was going through a dungeon or something, I would be decked out leather jacket, cargo pants, heavy boots. That's explorer gear. Like, th- I'm not even talking about that they've changed or modernized that. I'm just talking about like the core story narrative idea of a Tomb Raider and trying to make it a controversial thing just seems silly and makes people angry and makes people paranoid about these quote unquote consulting agencies that are involved in gaming, and that's a topic for another day, but it's just weird.
Yeah, they just need to keep Tomb Raider, and it just screams like we are scared to make a new IP. Like it really does. There's people that will buy this game just because it's got Tomb Raider on the box. The like you have to think of like how many millions of Tomb Raider fans are there? How many of those Tomb Raider fans really pay attention to gaming news? So like a lot of people will end up getting that game at some point, thinking they're gonna raid some cool tombs and all this stuff. Have Lara Croft, swing from like one tree to another or whatever she's climbing, and that game they're gonna be like high fiving everyone in the street. They're gonna be taking like artifacts back to the original countries. Giving chocolates out to everyone. Like, no, stop it. Let the Tomb Raider game be like the next thing we're gonna have. We're gonna have Forza and Gran Turismo stop having cars in the game because of air pollution. Like, is that what it's gonna be?
Or they have to stop at stop signs.
Yeah, like GTA 6, there's no crimes in that game. No, you go around high fiving everyone. Everyone's all smiley and stuff. Like, no, like it's stupid. It's getting ridiculous now. Come on. And Crystal Dynamics, like if you want to see something interesting, just go to Google at some point or Bing if you want to get your points. Just search Tomb Raider, PlayStation 1 magazine advertisements. So the stuff they used to put in
Those are like erotic.
yeah, and they knew what they're doing because that sells. But at the time, it was more accepted. Now it isn't. But they want to use the Tomb Raider name. They completely want to use the name Tomb Raider, not Truth Seeker. Tomb Raider. It's dumb. They need to do better. Anyway, we'll move on. Fallout has been absolutely huge this past week. Now I'll get this out of the way. I haven't watched the new show yet, simply because I kind of get opposite FOMO. I kind of want to watch things on my own time, and I don't really watch multiple new TV shows at the same time. I'm currently watching Shogun, which, by the way, is possibly one of the best TV shows of all time. So like I'll be getting to Fallout probably next Wednesday. But Logan, like Fallout's been popping off. The community's talking about Fallout. Fallout is topping the charts again in the UK, which is crazy because those games are already on Game Pass. So like, what was your thought on the TV show and the Fallout hype at the minute?
Well, my non majorly spoilery review is that it's masterclass. It's fantastic. I binged it in a few days, and yeah, it's incredible. It's accurate and true to the source material. It is not a abomination. It is not some like Tomb Raider thing where it's the name, but it's not actually what it is. It is Fallout. Like you have true Bethesda and In Exile. Shouts to Brian Fargo and Tim Kaine and all the other original creators who were involved in the Fallout universe. Like their trademark wit and humor, dark subject matter, but also some serious stuff, and it's just well done. It's set in kind of the West Coast, California-ish region, and it's well done. The three main characters in particular are fantastic, especially Ella Purnell as Lucy, and Walton Goggins as the Ghoul, and Cooper Howard as his pre-war character. And they're fantastic. I love it so much, and I can't wait to see where they go for season 2. And I was left like Oppenheimer at the end of the show at all the revelations in the season finale. I was
Wow.
just like, oh my goodness. It it is lore accurate for Fallout, and it is canon. So definitely watch this if you're a Fallout fan, and give me more.
Wow. So, would you say that? By the way, I don't think this is a topic for a different show on a different time. Like, I don't like the whole waiting 2 years between seasons thing. I think that,
Oh my gosh,
like,
that and the whole we can't actually binge watch shows because that hurts the experience. Like, get out of here.
yeah, people seem really torn on the whole binging thing at the minute. I will say this though, I've been enjoying the wait from week to week for Shogun on Disney Plus. Um, but maybe it's because I only watch one episode of something a night, so it's like it doesn't really apply to me. But like, hey, I'm looking forward to watching it. But like the Fallout fans, they seem to love the show. Yeah, like you said, it's law accurate. It is law, and like it's got people talking about Fallout. And I think it's like it's going to be a huge move for Microsoft because it's going to push Microsoft to maybe lean more into Fallout than they originally planned. Elder Scrolls is coming next year. And before we continue, we have another super chat by Sicko for £2. Thank you very much. It says the Fallout show made me forget the Rings of Power. I haven't seen the Rings of Power. By the way, little tangent. I'm hilariously bad at keeping up with TV shows. That's why I only watch one new thing at a time. So like I'm halfway through Ahsoka, and that came out like what, a year ago. So,
Hey, it's good stuff. It's good
like,
stuff.
and Ahsoka's good, by the way. But Rings of Power, I haven't watched it yet. The clips I have seen, not really my type of thing. It doesn't look that good. Like Logan, I know you watched that, right?
Yeah, I personally enjoyed it, but I am not a hardcore like Tolkien guy, like reading all the codexes and the lore like I am about Star Wars and some other stuff. So for those people, I understand there are some issues with this, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, and thank you for the £2 sicko. I have no intention of watching Rings of Power. It's just not. And plus, Lord of the Rings to me is those three films. That's that. I'll play the video games, but like I'm tapped out. There, by the way, while we're talking about Lord of the Rings, there's a Lord of the Rings anime coming out this year, which I only just found out about. um, which
That's gonna be so weird.
Yeah, it's set 100 years before the first film, so I mean, who knows? I'm gonna watch it. But yeah, and by the way, I think the best video game adaptation is Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I think that I haven't seen Fallout or Halo yet, so I can't say, but I think Cyberpunk Edgerunners is phenomenal. Like you will be in trauma after you've seen the end of that show. like after I saw the ending of Edgerunners, I literally went for a walk. I had to process it.
You have to rethink your life.
Yeah, it's like have you seen that meme of the dog looking at the ocean? like that was me.
Yeah.
Like it was traumatizing, but Edge Runners was phenomenal. The music, the characters, everything about it. But I think we live in an age now where these adaptations are just really good now. It's not like the '90s where everything that was adapted, uh, was kind of meh. Mortal Kombat was great. Street Fighter was kind of okay. Although I will admit I think that's a fun film to watch because you've got Kylie Minogue pretending to kick. You've got Jean Claude Van Damme pretending to be an American. like it makes no sense. But like now we have all these good like video game stuff. But as when it comes to like the push for Fallout, like Elder Scrolls 6, that's on tap to come out in like 2026 or 2027. And like people joke about Fallout 5 being like 2032 or like longer away, farther away. I think Fallout 5 may actually come out sooner because of the hype. They may even get a different studio on maybe making a spin off because maybe Fallout 5 doesn't have to be the next Fallout. They have Obsidian now. They have In Exile. Maybe there's a game set in the Fallout universe that isn't even an RPG. Like they can really do anything now. They could do turn-based games. They could do top-down games, isometric games, first-person shooter campaigns, whatever. But like, I've never seen a TV show do this for a game outside of Cyberpunk. And like, look at Cyberpunk. We'll bring that up. Cyberpunk it's this excellent game. It launched in a horrific state. Do you know what revived that? It wasn't the free like next gen upgrade and the fix, but the fix actually fixed the game. It was Edgerunners. Edgerunners made so many people go out and buy that game. excuse me, and like reinvigorated the fandom to where like people treated the expansion last year in September, Phantom Liberty, as a new game and as like more reason to celebrate the title. And Cyberpunk is probably one of the best RPGs out there at the minute. And it's like they knew what they were doing. They fixed the game. The free next gen upgrade worked. It fixed the game. Edgerunners just promoted the title basically. But like as we saw in the FTC documents last year, there is a Fallout remake / remaster coming out, and it's probably coming out next year. Although if I was Microsoft, I would hope you could get that out this year, because the fandom, they want more. And by the way, I keep saying remake / remaster because it's been listed as both, so it is what it is. But like Logan, do you think maybe with all the hype going on, there may be some sort of movement with like fast tracking something Fallout, even if it is the remaster?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. One, I think we will see an official announcement of season 2 for the show very soon, because it's already basically it's gonna happen, but they already have tax credits lined up for doing season two and filming and stuff. It's blowing everybody's socks off critically. Fans are loving it. It's the number one trending show on Amazon. All this stuff is happening. All the games are, doing 400% increase in players. It's, yeah, like season two is a dead giveaway. It's going to happen. So that'll happen first. Like, they'll announce that. But I do think we will get the remake remaster of 3 before too long. And I'm just going to throw out a prediction. I think that In Exile, because of Brian Fargo and obviously his knowledge and creation of the original Fallout 1 and 2, they will do a remake of Fallout 1 and 2, maybe Tactics. And, in the style of Wasteland 3, like that type of game, but um, remade modern from Fallout 1 and 2 and stuff. I think that's what will happen.
Yeah. Before we continue with the topic, we have another super chat of the day by Nick W for $5. I can see them doing Fallout Collection with Fallout 1 and 2 and Tactics, bringing them games to Xbox. I mean, that's a bloody good
Yep.
prediction because, as we've seen the past few years, RTS games and basically PC centric games have been popping off on console. Like, hell, Flight Simulator is on console. Um, so, like, I can really say that's a good prediction. Um, like, all it needs is like controller support, obviously high resolution textures, but they've already got that stuff. They could work with the modders because a lot of remakes and remasters in the past they've worked with the mod teams. So like I think that's probably one of the most likely scenarios. Like they could maybe announce something like that at, let's say, the awards or the summer showcase. And we have another super chat there by Nick W. I don't know if you've accidentally sent 5 twice, but if you have, thank you. But that's a good point. I mean, the collection of like older games, and people will laugh every time you say older games. Um, like I've never really had the opportunity to play the first Fallout games, and then being turn-based or like older games, that doesn't really bother me. But I would love to play those games on console because they essentially like Wasteland. I played Wasteland 3, and I think there's an audience on console that want that. And funny enough, this past week, I've seen a lot of people in my replies asking for the older titles. So, like,
Hmm.
there is a market for that. And I think that's a very good prediction. I think that'll happen. Anyway, thank you for the 5 or maybe $10, Nick W. That's really appreciated. But Fallout's in a good place. People keep comparing it to Halo. I haven't seen the Halo show, so I can't really say. But hey, it's good to see Fallout popping off. Fallout, by the way, Fallout 4 Game of the Year edition is, I think, number 4 on Xbox in the UK top paid section. So, like, even though these games are in Game Pass, people are buying them. It's like, I don't think people need to, push the whole Game Pass gamers don't buy games, all that stuff. Like, people clearly want more of this world. And you're going to have all these gamers that have never really played Fallout before. They're going to jump in with maybe that old collection Nick W mentioned, or maybe like the Fallout 3 remaster because, like, people want more. And, like Logan said, the lore accurate. They clearly know what they're doing with the universe. I will say this, I'm going to watch it soon. I just don't like the 2-year gap in between TV shows. I can't stand that. Bit of a tangent. I don't think these shows need 2 years in between development, and here's why. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has possibly the best production value I've ever seen in a TV show, and that's a yearly series. Yearly, yearly series. The only reason season 3 is being pushed back to next year is because of the bloody writers' strike. Season 3 was originally going to come out in June, so I hope these like companies move away from the 2-year model. Because like, Logan, wasn't the wait between Halo 1 and 2 series, wasn't that 2 years as well?
Yep. The writer's strike screwed everybody over, basically. And not saying it was right or wrong that they had a strike, just it is what it is. It put everything on indefinite hiatus. Like Silo, which is another brilliant sci-fi series starring Rebecca Ferguson, um, the revered mother in Dune. Um, They just now wrapped filming of season two, and it'll be coming out before too long. And then they'll do three and four back to back. But that was supposed to have been done or come out ages ago. But the strike put everything on pause, even stuff that was heavily into development. And it just shows how everything is like walking on eggshells, tightrope type environment for working stuff. And there's got to be a way to streamline this better.
Yeah, like I mentioned Star Trek because Strange New Worlds, and by the way, people do not like it. Like Star Wars is huge, but Star Trek just puts some people off for some reason. But Strange New Worlds was the reinvigoration like Star Trek needed, to me. And Strange New Worlds, like they can pop out a new season every year, but the writer's strike messed it all up. I'm not going to rant about the writer's strike because I'm not really familiar with everything that went on, but this has happened before. This happened in the late 2000s when the economy collapsed and there was another writer's strike. You know, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, that film, that was basically wrote by someone that doesn't write films. That's why the writing's so bad. But yeah, I hope we see the 2 year thing go away. You know, the pandemic thing. Obviously, I don't think that's affecting TV shows anymore. But yeah, hopefully, Fallout season 2 isn't going to be that far away. Yeah, can't wait to watch it. Again, I'm strange when it comes to watching television shows. It's weird. It's a weird thing about me. I can't explain it. So Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth, or should I say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, hasn't really sold as well as they wanted on PlayStation. And like, look, I think the game looks fantastic. I'm not going to bash the game. Uh, Me and Logan have talked about how we think this game should come to Xbox. I mean, they could probably put it on like Switch 2 down the line and PC and stuff. And it's like, I think the age of these third party exclusivity deals is over. Like, it's not benefiting anyone. These games are costing way too much to make, and like Final Fantasy is a franchise. It's one of the biggest franchises, but yet even in Japan, it's not doing as well as other titles. And even though the PlayStation 5 user base is actually smaller, it does make sense that it's sold less. But these games cost ridiculous amounts of money to the point where, like, Square Enix, they obviously needing a bigger return. It's like, I think, one day these games will come to other platforms, including Xbox. But like Logan, it is a weird situation because, again, Final Fantasy VII is a household name, and it looks like the sequel isn't doing that well, especially considering what Square's like. Like, what's your take on the whole thing? Because this could have been avoided, but these third-party exclusivity deals just kind of they suck, man.
Yeah, like obviously it goes without saying that it would have sold more if it was available on more platforms. Like even just PC and PlayStation, it would have sold quite a bit more if it was available on PC. If you throw in Xbox, it would add a bunch more. And then, a Switch can't run this thing, but if it was theoretically available on Switch, it would sell like hotcakes. So it's a bummer. It's probably because of some archaic deal that they did with, Sony. It is what it is. It is weird though, from a non, console competitive standpoint, that it is selling significantly less in its rate than the previous one, which was well received and everybody loved. So you would think that people would be running in droves to pick up the sequel, but it does not appear to be the case. And you sent me a funny tweet about it, like comparison sales wise to another game that didn't really sell that much, but apparently is outpacing it. Was Jeff Grubb had put that Pikmin 4 actually has outsold Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and that, oh boy, you want to see some angry gatekeepers? Go to that tweet. It is the peak comedy, and just yeah, I don't know why. It just for some reason, even for the people who bought the other one on PlayStation, they're just not signing up to get the second one.
Yeah, honestly, I think it has to do with the price as well, because the last game was what $60 and this one's 70. There's less PlayStations out there, so that makes sense. But like, who knows how much this game cost? Apparently, it's a massive game, and like it probably costs like upwards of $100 million. And then there's all the marketing stuff. But I think like them doing these exclusivity deals, it's not helping the fans. Like, look at Persona. We've talked about this time and time again. Like, there's Persona fans and Yakuza fans on Xbox now who are looking forward to, the new Atlas title this year, Metaphor ReFantazio. Wow, I didn't actually butcher the name that time. And Yakuza, there's a new Yakuza game basically out every year, and those games don't necessarily launch in Game Pass. They clearly sell enough for more games to come to the platform, and like I love Final Fantasy. I would love more titles to come to Xbox. I think we've talked about this a lot. I think the remake looks amazing, and I can't wait to play that. And hopefully, I will down on Xbox down the road. But like Square Enix taking these deals doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I was looking at this thread of the Final Fantasy 7. I'm all over the place today. The Final Fantasy 9 remake, which is basically coming to Xbox. In a thread about that, I saw a lot of people were really disappointed that PlayStation didn't shell out for exclusivity, and it's because there's this like subset of Final Fantasy fans that do not want that game to go to other platforms. Not even PC, not even Switch 2, and even sometimes they'll say, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if this game goes to PC and Switch 2 down the road, but maybe Xbox if there's enough resources?" Why is resources only mentioned for Xbox? Why is that? Why is it that Square Enix had the resources to put pixel remasters on a Kindle tablet, but not Xbox? Like that blows my mind. Is there really a huge JRPG fan base on the Amazon Kindle community? Like, I don't know if that community exists, but hey, it must do if Square Enix is doing that. But it's a weird choice. I think we're going to see less of because, look, from what I've seen, the game should sell really well. It looks like a fantastic game, but again, Square Enix, they mess up. Maybe their projections were way higher than they thought. The game price costs $70, so maybe people just don't want to spend that for games. And we've talked about this many a time. I think less and less people are going to start spending £70 on games because it's a lot of money. And yeah, I mean, hopefully Microsoft can work something out to get these games to come over. I don't think it's lifetime, exclusivity. I think maybe when the trilogy's done, it'll come over. But if I was Microsoft, I would try and sign a deal with Square Enix to get the next 10 years of Final Fantasy games. Not exclusive at all. Not even marketing or anything like that. Not Game Pass. Just sign a deal that they get 10 years of games. That's it. Maybe the occasional marketing deal or whatever, like how they're doing with Persona, but like, why would we be getting new Persona games and new Yakuza games and new Atlas games if they were just relying on Game Pass, which they aren't? So it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's a weird situation, and like, as much as people might think I hate Square Enix, I think Square Enix, they are capable of making amazing games. They really are. But it's just some of the choices they make. It's strange, I could talk about how good Crisis Core is all day, literally all day. That game is phenomenal. That's like a 9.5 for me. Brilliant game. However, it's the choices they make. Like, it's strange, man. Logan, have you got anything else to say on Final Fantasy before we move on?
No, just that I'm looking forward to the ones that do come to the platform, and you know TBD on Final Fantasy VII trilogy. But they said out on stage with Phil that all the Final Fantasy games that they could and all the Square games that they could will come over. So I'll take them at their word for now, and we'll see. Just you know, pixel remasters. It's not hard. Get it done. Snip snap.
Yeah, I mean, I don't program. Like, and this isn't a lazy developer thing either. Like, would it really be that hard to port 30-year-old Final Fantasy games where you run around as pixels to an Xbox? Like, I can't imagine that being a big deal. Especially when, like, let's face it, the Xbox and PlayStation, it's basically the same architecture. All you have to do is, do some optimization, slap some achievements on there, boom, done. Again, it's a weird move they make, But hey, I mean, like Sony, they've always done these deals. They've been doing it since the '90s with Tomb Raider 2. Tomb Raider went to the Saturn and the original PlayStation and PC, and the second game was exclusive. I mean, it's a business thing. Just people don't like. Hopefully, they stop doing it. Anyway, we'll move on. So, new hardware. This is a big topic because there's been a lot of talk about pro consoles, handhelds, and all this stuff. And Mikey Barra, and we could talk about some things he said, but I want to focus on the hardware thing. He was on about how, like, mid-gen upgrades and new hardware, it's always exciting and all this stuff, but it's more development work. And you look at the time where these games cost $10 million more than they used to cost last generation, $100 million, $200 million, whatever. These games are expensive, and it's like last gen it made sense because you had the 4K boom for TVs back in 2016 and 2017, and now there isn't really that. We just need better optimization, and you have PlayStation coming out this year with the Pro, which I'm guessing that's going to be announced in September, which they did last time, and all that stuff. And honestly, I think this time around it's not necessary. It really isn't. These consoles we have right now, you can play Call of Duty at 120 frames per second. You have HDR, you have 4K and all that stuff. And like to this day, these console pushers still put 8K on the box. Like nobody games at 8K, right? Nobody cares about 8K. 8K isn't a thing to strive for at the minute because one, the displays cost way too much money. And nobody makes 8K content. I think the only way you can watch 8K content is via YouTube at the minute. And they do some 8K stuff. But, like, there's no want or need for it this time. Do people want 60 frames in all games? Yes, but that's not going to happen. Because these pro consoles will get pushed graphically, and performance will always be in the rear view mirror. We've talked about this before. Performance is important, yes. But, like, the normies out there that just buy their console for Call of Duty or FIFA or Madden, they don't care about frames per second. They don't even know what that is. And, like, I've noticed this past week or so, a lot of people are saying that Microsoft needs to put out a Pro console to combat the 5 Pro. And I'm like, Microsoft had the most powerful console for 4 years into the generation. And we've been told power doesn't matter over and over again. People in the media have told me nobody cares about power. Not really. And it's like now we want pro consoles just because another console's doing it. Like, Logan, it's a bit ridiculous, but like, what's your take on it? Because I've noticed this past week people like Microsoft needing to put out a pro console, but personally, I think it's just not needed.
I'm with you. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's necessary. I think these consoles, we've had this discussion several times. I think they're undercooked as is. They still got more juice under the hood that they just need to fine tune some more to really, like we've talked ad nauseum. Like, you remember 360 launch titles like Oblivion, and compared to like Halo 4 or GTA 5 or something at the end of the cycle. That is the same hardware. That is an Xbox 360 game, yet it looks like a console generation leap or two in between them. Like, these things have more to go that they can do with. And I just think this is Sony just trying to get some more hardware out there and try to squeeze a little bit more blood out of a stone before the next gen. I don't think it's necessary. If anything, Xbox has, rightly or wrongly, depending on your opinion, has been pivoting and going in their own path and direction for how they do things, software and hardware wise. I would double down and say, to heck with the idea of a mid console refresh. We're going to release our portable console, or we're going to announce it anyway, or do something like that. Like, maybe even launch next gen ahead of the other, ahead of PlayStation. Get a head start. I would do something like that. I would not play the, well, Sony did it, so I guess we have to do it. Like, no. You're Microsoft. You're the $2-3 trillion company. You do what you think is best for you.
Yeah. I mean, funny thing is, the Nintendo Switch, they've sold like 130 million units or something crazy like that, and they can put out a game that's 720p and struggles to run at 20 frames per second, and people say it's one of the best games of the generation. you know, so like,
A glorified GameCube game.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and like people are okay with certain performance issues in one manner and not in the other. It's like I get it. Like Hellblade 2, they've even said like 60 frames doesn't do anything for that game, and like I haven't played it yet. I can't really say anything about it, but like just wanting a pro console this time around just seems unnecessary. It really does. It's not needed. I see more excitement about a handheld, if anything. Like, let's be honest, right? The PlayStation 5, that's going to sell great regardless. They don't need to put out a Pro. What a Pro is going to do at the minute, it's going to incentivize people that already own a PlayStation to spend more money. Right? It's kind of how I really hate how the user base is kind of like summed up by these console manufacturers. They go off the consoles sold and not users. That's why, thankfully, Microsoft kind of moved to monthly active users, because if you buy one Xbox versus 10, you're still buying the same amount of games. So it's like it doesn't really help them in the end. But like, there's people I've known, they've bought like 4 PlayStation 4s. I think there's one guy who actually bought 6 over time. But it's like, to them, to Sony, that's how they report these numbers. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter how many millions of people own multiple PlayStations. They're still buying the same amount of games, still buying the same amount of subscriptions. But it's like a Pro isn't going to be, like, it's not going to be sold to anyone that is new. I can't say anyone that said, hey, I don't own a PlayStation 5. I'm going to wait for the Pro. Did they really wait for the Pro? It's a weird situation. Again, last gen it made sense. 4K televisions were made more affordable. 4K content became more readily available with 4K Blu-rays and 4K streaming. It made sense. Now it's not an issue, right? We don't have Disney Plus or Amazon coming out saying, hey, we're going to put out 8K content with 120 frames per second video. Nobody wants that. Nobody cares about that. We want our current pieces of hardware. Like, this has been a weird generation. We've talked about this. It's a strange generation because we're all locked up in the house the first year of these consoles. These games were delayed constantly. Warner Brothers' whole lineup for their E3 showcase, which never happened, was delayed multiple years. And now we're at a place where we're getting games more consistently by third-party publishers. Microsoft, they clearly getting better with their first-party output, and it's like, we just want more titles, and throwing more hardware at a problem that doesn't exist seems a bit weird. Like Microsoft, they didn't put out VR, and you have these analysts talking about how that was actually a good move because VR clearly isn't making much money these days. Oculus is selling to a lot of people because they reduced the price, especially in the UK. So it's like, it's attractive to the casual user base that maybe they want to play, Beat Saber or something, but there's not much money to be had. And I think that's going to be a problem for these VR companies. But Microsoft, they don't need to put out a Pro console. They don't need to put out a VR machine. The number one thing people want from Microsoft is games. Thankfully, they have them coming. The handheld thing would just be a big bonus. I don't know why I have someone in my chat talking about crypto. I don't care about that stuff. Okay. People are using consoles for... I didn't know people could use consoles for crypto stuff. Oof. Sorry about that. It's just normally when I get bots, it's normally about that stuff. But like, I had no idea you could use consoles for like that type of thing. But it's crazy.
That's fascinating. I had no idea either.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. But it's a weird situation because when these Pro consoles come out this year by PlayStation, there's gonna be these people on the Xbox side that say we need a Pro console too because they just get it. Like, we don't need it, right? GTA 6, that's going to be 30 frames on everything until it gets its PC launch a year later, and then people can run it at 60 frames at Ultra on their 5090s or whatever's out by then. Nobody should care. We want more games. The handheld thing's a bonus because people have always wanted a handheld Microsoft console, and in the current age where Steam, they put out a Steam Deck, it sells phenomenal to the point where these other companies start putting out handheld console PC things. You know, Asus, they have the ROG Ally, which is huge. LG have a few, I think, and like they popping off. So it shows that there's a market outside of the Switch. The interest in an Xbox handheld is being able to take your Xbox games on the go. Nobody cares about a Pro console on Xbox. Like, you don't need it. It's going to be a great year for content, and that's that. And we'll move into the last topic. And you know what, Logan, we might be going over 2 hours. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, that's good for me, man. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, I normally, yeah, same here. It's just I normally like to keep it under 2 hours, but we've still got some stuff to talk about. Depends on what's what. Anyway, um, the whole like console thing, like people are interested in a handheld, and plus they have the Surface team working with the Xbox team to make hardware now. They've been doing it for a while. So like, look at how sleek the Xbox One S, One X was. The One X is probably one of the best looking consoles of all time because of how sleek it is. You can't even see the disc drive in it. Like, it'd be interesting to see what they do with a handheld console, especially in 2024. Again, that's just the rumor. It's just going to be exciting because, again, we're going to be getting a ton of games, ton of new stuff coming to Game Pass, and that's that. And it's an exciting time. It really is. I think that like throwing pro hardware stuff just isn't really necessary. Like, it's just not needed. Anyway, moving to the last topic, which is, you know what? Let's make this the last thing. Mike Ybarra of Xbox,
Oh boy.
yeah, came out with something a few days ago on about how, like, when you've played a great game, like, and he mentioned like Elden Ring, Red Dead, and God of War, and all this stuff. Like, wouldn't it be great if you could tip these developers $10 or $20 because you felt like the game deserved more? And I kind of shook my head, like, that's crazy talk. And one, by the way, do you know indie developers should be getting that talk more than the AAA ones? We talking about these big AAA companies making ungodly amounts of money, and you want me to give them more money, yet you have these indie developers making games in their in their basement on like limited funds. And it's like, shouldn't we be talking about that? And by the way, some indie games already do that. It's called supporter pack DLC, right? Aliens Fireteam Elite, great game. If you wanted to give the developer some extra support, do you know what you did? You bought the supporter pack, and in return, you got some cool skins, some weapons and stuff, and it was basically a thank you. So you were giving them a tip, but you also got something in return, right? Really cool way of doing it. And I'm 100% for people doing that. Like, if people want to give developers more money that way, I think that's perfectly fine. But do you know where else these game developers make money? Collector's editions. These resin statues you get with 99% of collector's editions, but you spend £100 for, they don't cost £100 to make. They cost about $15 to make, right? And it's all slapped together in a box, and you pay premium for it. They see the profit in that. And saying these AAA developers, we should be able to tip them. In an age where we're going to start getting ads in games soon, in an age where we get microtransactions in AAA games, we have games launching at $70 where you have to buy skins at like $17 or $20 a pop. You have these season passes and battle passes in full price games. And I think it's just like it's the most out of touch thing I've ever heard coming from a rich person. Like, you're a top executive at one of the biggest companies on the planet when it came to gaming. You probably have a lot of money, and you think the common folk, the regular people, should be tipping game developers. And by the way, the developers that make these games, the developers that program, your GTA, your Red Dead, Elden Ring, they wouldn't be getting this money. It's the publisher. So when I finished Elden Ring and literally sat back and thought, wow, this is one of the best games I've ever played. If I tipped the Elden Ring team, do you know what would have happened? That money goes straight to Bandai Namco. Like, what are we talking about? Like, Logan, it's probably the craziest topic I've ever seen, but like, it's so outlandish to think that a rich person specifically thinks that tipping game developers, AAA game developers, is a good thing, even though it would just go straight to the publishers.
Yeah, like from a naive, like fresh out of the ball, fish out of water perspective, I could understand how someone could be like, "Oh, wow, this thing was truly magnificent experience," or "I really enjoyed it," and like, "Man, I got more out of this than I thought I would," or this or this. I wish I could just really thank them or do this or this. Like, I get the idea theoretically, but like you said, that ain't reality. What would happen is we just talked about it earlier. Take 2K, Take Two, who's making unholy amounts of money and is going to like break Guinness records, all kinds of things next year with GTA 6. Like, they already are doing this, and that would just be padding their shareholders' pockets and their other stuff. Like, John and Jane Doe who work in graphics or work in narrative or, somebody who's the community manager, they're not getting, $10 or something from this and it goes to them or whatever. It's going somewhere else. This is, yeah, in an idealistic way, I get it, and it would be nice, but it's just not reality. And like you said, who it would make sense for is like indie devs. Take Tunic, for example. It's a game that is well designed, well loved, made by one dude. Like, guess who would be getting tip money? The dude. So he would be getting that. That makes sense to me. But this, no, and this is almost like the you go to the drive-through at a well-established coffee shop, and they are asking for a tip at the drive-through. It's like, wait a minute, literally, I just pulled up and I'm paying for my stuff, and you want a tip on top of this? This isn't even like a car hop or a. I don't know if you guys have car hops in the UK or not,
No.
but like where you drive up you drive up or you walk up and you order food and then like somebody in either rollerblades or skates or just walks out and brings you your food and does this or that and it's like you give them a tip, it's customary, but like just for a straight up drive through expecting tips and stuff for certain stuff, it comes off like that. It seems nuts.
Yeah, well, I can say we definitely don't have those car hop things because have you seen our weather? You'd probably break your neck, in a
It's
puddle or
been a
something.
minute.
Yeah. But like I mentioned at the time, like I think the tipping culture in the US has probably played part in this because I always see this meme, and we don't have this over here. Someone's in a self checkout service in the US, and after they've self checked out, there's a thing on screen saying, "Do you want to leave a tip?" And
Yes,
I
that
was
thing.
I was so confused when I saw that. So like you're doing self service at a checkout, and they're asking for a tip. Who's asking for it? Is the robot asking for a tip? Like, and like it's going straight to the company, and that's what Mike Ubar was basically suggesting. Like, like I said earlier in the topic, like Aliens Fight Team Elite, like that was a smaller game by a different publisher, and like I support, by the way, pretty much every game Focus Entertainment makes. I'm not sure if they publish that, but like these smaller publishers that have better independent deals and stuff, like, they deserve that money. So like supporter pack
Hmm.
DLC, I'm like I said, I'm totally for. You get something in return as well, but for AAA games, it makes no sense. So imagine if Rockstar came out with a new GTA 6 and said, "Hey, there's this supporter pack DLC where you can give us a tip." It's like, no, 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 I'm not giving 2K or Take Two more money. Like, just no. Like someone developing the game, someone that's worked hard on the game for 5, 10 years, they aren't seeing a penny of that. So it was the most ridiculous topic I've ever seen because everything we've been charged constantly for video games for the past few years now. Like, remember, this generation's 4 years old. The game prices already went up. You have these publishers already saying that $70 is unsustainable. We should expect it to go up. I had a developer last week call me cheap because I said 70 is too much for video games, even though I buy video games and I post footage daily from new video games. And I was called cheap by a developer. And it's like, why is it so many people are okay with us being nickeled and dimed at every opportunity? Like you said, Logan, like over there, you get asked to tip for everything. Thankfully, tipping isn't really much of a thing here, but like, oh my, like what the hell's going on? Like suggesting tips for AAA development is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, and I like Mike Ybarra, but like some of the stuff he's came out recently just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not rich, I right. I would like to see what that perspective's like. You know, being rich and maybe wanting to trip AAA developers like an extra $20 because you enjoyed Elden Ring. Woohoo! Do you know what? How else I'm going to support Elden Ring? I'm going to buy that expansion in June. I'm going to buy it.
For $40,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a $40 expansion. And, you know, guess what? People already technically do this. They gift people games. Like, people have, like, enjoyed games in the past. Hey, recommend it to a friend, and then they gift it to them. It's just a thing now. And I think it struck me the wrong way because we're looking at, like, Ubisoft titles now that are, like, 100 and... I have to check. So the PC version of Star Wars Outlaws Ultimate Edition is $114.99. Like, come on. We already given these studios tips. We're paying way more than we should. And I want to see more pushback from the community on these prices. Because we shouldn't be paying this much for video games. And I will always stand by that. Games should not be $70. They shouldn't be £70. Or if you live in Australia, it's like $120. Like, no. It's getting ridiculous. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because it's leading us down a very dark path where next generation, when they go up to $80 and there wasn't enough pushback, do you know what they're going to do? They're going to raise it to 90 and then 100 and then 110, and then 10 years from now, we're going to see games maybe costing $200. That is scary. Like, people don't want to spend that much on games. But yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say on the topic before we close out the show?
Just that, yeah, like, it kind of Yabara related, but it's just been interesting how some people, once they've left companies, have kind of had a interesting take on some topics lately, and that seem like, maybe things weren't exactly rosy. It was kind of related, and I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it has come out with some strange topics and strange takes because, like, one going from Microsoft on like the like I can't remember what he was working on, but he was working on like software and features and stuff, to being like the head of Blizzard, and then Microsoft buys Blizzard and Activision, and then all of a sudden he's out. Like, and he's if you look at his profile, I think it said something like playing bangers on PlayStation, Nintendo, and something on Game Pass. Like there's clearly some open wounds there that haven't healed, and it shows, man. It really shows. But again, I'm not gonna defend a rich person. Again, I like Mike Ybarra, but some of the stuff he's saying makes no sense, and just that tipping thing really struck me the wrong way. Maybe it's because I see people in the US get like I'm going to call it tipping scams. Like, you shouldn't be paying tips for everything all the time. That's stupid. Like, that's strange, man. But yeah. Anyway, hope everyone enjoyed the show. We had a bunch of other topics left, which we'll go over next week. But everyone in chat has been amazing once again. We'll be back at the same time next week. Logan, it's been great talking to you and having you on the show again. It's been an excellent show because this week, no bad news, not really. And we're going to talk about this quickly. The Xbox community morale at the minute seems really good. And I think that's because, Microsoft, they aren't really saying much. The Game Pass games are dropping. The Summer Showcase is obviously in summer. And like, this is one of the biggest benefits Microsoft can have when they've got games coming. They obviously some sort of hardware coming, but they just need to stop talking and giving interviews all the time. Because some words get slipped up. You have IGN that'll pop off at any opportunity. Everything's good. Anyway, it's been good talking, everyone. We're back at the same time next week. I made a video, 10 biggest games coming out to Xbox in April. Most of those games still aren't out yet, so the link is in the description down below. The support is greatly appreciated. Our social links for Twitter, I'm not calling it X, is in the description down below, so we always talk about games and stuff on there. Anyway, we'll be out next week for another show. We are out, everybody. Peace.